steering wheel. Lapse the steering wheel, yeah. Give him steering wheel. Hey, steering wheel. Somebody tell him to give it to him. Come on! Whoa!
Your leg, my please. Your leg.
How the f*** that's possible?
I'm driving like a grandma. Get that, Ralph? Did you hear me? Proper radio. Ralph, acknowledge. Now, come on, close him down and kill him. We've got a lunatic on the track. Down that mistake.
I am so annoyed. Boys and girls, your attention, please.
Hello and welcome back inside the Par for May for podcast number 988. We're getting dangerously close to 1,000. This is Todd.
No, Todd, not now.
A.K.A. Negative Camera. You know why I've asked you here.
You must convince the villagers that I'm harmless.
Come on, man. That's not asking much, is it? Tonight, for your kind consideration, what are we covering? Oh, I'll tell you. Alan McNish back in the news around Audi. FIA, well, you know, we talked about the super clipping stuff last week. We might mention it. But McLaren brings a completely new car to Miami, or that's the rumor. Red Bull, well, they're out copying Ferrari at Silverstone. Why not? Seems like the thing to do. And we head in to this weekend after a desert-like break into the Miami Grand Prix, and we'll talk about that. Before getting into any of that, of course, I've got to bring in my co-host, and you know what that means. I got to go all the way to the right coast of our nation, nestled near our nation's capital. You know where you love her, the lovely, the redoubtable Grace. How you doing?
I'm doing pretty good, Todd. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. Thank you for asking. I just survived a big storm here in the Midwest, rolled through, and, you know, rain and hail, and, you know, it's just all...
Mass hysteria.
Mass hysteria.
That's right. Dogs, cats.
Yes.
Living together. It's
survive that.
Yeah, I mean, it's that time of the year, right? When the weather is like one day 20 degrees, the next day it's 90 degrees. It's great.
Yeah, it's like Missouri weather. You know, it's 70 at this time of year. You know, it's 70 degrees between 12 p.m. and 6 p.m.
Right,
and then it reverts back to winter type things overnight. You know, so it's kind of one of those deals. But
it's not. You know, it's not great. You
it's that time of season for this thing, and you know, I live on that whole strip that goes from the Southwest up through Missouri, up through St. Louis, Tornado Alley sort of thing, through Oklahoma, all that. Live right there. And it is that time of year when we take a 5-week hiatus from F8.
Oh,
no,
wait.
We never do that.
That's not until August.
Yeah, we don't do, and that's not even 5 weeks.
No, it's not, but it's been rough. It's been rough.
A minute. It's been rough. You know, you give fans that much time, and the press even starts to, you know, their knees start to buckle on trying to find content and news, right?
There's nothing. I mean,
and there's nothing. And now we've just got people infighting and social media going crazy.
And I mean, and the thing is that at least during the holiday season in December, we're all on holiday, right? So there's the same sort of 5-week lull, but we're all kind of like, well, we'll just, this week we won't do a lot, right? Like we're cheering and holiday, and people are doing end of year reviews and stuff like that. So there's something that kind of fills that time in a way that we're just like, well, we had 3 races and here we are. And they had not the greatest, but you know, they fixed it. They took away a jewel and we're fine. It'll be fine in Miami.
I felt like, I was thinking the other day, I feel like this is F1's version. You remember the movie The Kingsman?
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
I think this is like F1's version of the app on the phone. You know, if they want to send people where they're just fighting and killing each other online and everything, you just do a 5-week break and the entire F1 world just starts devouring itself.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, it's fine. It's all
I don't
good.
know. I'm glad it's over. I think it would. I'm sure F1 would have preferred not to have this break.
Oh, sure.
But you know, this is not the season where they wanted that. Like there's like, it didn't build anticipation, right? Like I think that people are a little more apprehensive about Miami, or we're just going to pretend like the first 3 races didn't happen and we're just starting a new season, right? Like it's like preseason in football. Like we don't pay attention to those games. They happen, whatever. Yeah. We're just going to start the season in Miami. It'll be fine.
Yeah, it was interesting. Normally, the 5 weeks you thought had been good for content. There's a lot of elbow room here to create some interesting introspective pieces and all that. And it was really just consumed by the bit of the dumpster fire that the new regulations have caused in the first 3 races. And then you had Stefano out saying, hey, passing is passing. Hey, it's great. Hey, it's a pass, and hey, you used to have to conserve for turbos and nobody's complaining. New fans, they love these regulations, right? You get a lot of that, which you would expect from the CEO of F1.
He's just a positive guy. It's fine.
He's a positive guy. The glass is always half full with Stefano. Always. And so you got to respect that. But
I guess.
Yeah, so this 5 weeks is really consumed with everybody navel gazing over the tweaks, the refinements, I believe they called them, of the regulations, which I appreciate. I happened to catch Sky's video with Ant Davidson and Bernie and the blonde guy. I'm terrible at this. Simon.
Lansby. I couldn't come up with his first name. Simon.
Yes. And it was interesting because Ant said, here's the thing. I'm a big fan. I'm an Anthony fan. Okay, so, but he does kind of have to be careful there because he does a tremendous amount of sim work for Mercedes, right? So But he was kind of candid. He said, yeah, if I'm honest, I feel like the changes, the tweaks that they made during the 5-week downtime is where the season should have started, if I'm honest. And then we couldn't refine from there. So we'll see. We'll see if he's right. I think it'll also take a couple, right, we only had 3 races, but also each track is its own kind of thing. And so we need to kind of have a couple tracks that are kind of in the same, high-speed turns or low down. You kind of need some tracks that are similar. So now we're starting to get to some tracks that we're getting a little more data points on similar kind of tracks from that perspective. So I think that'll help, too, because the rules are going to interact differently at different kinds of tracks. So yeah, they will. Yeah, and of course, the data they harvest in the first 3 races is critical for sure, but things change now, right? Yeah. So that's a little different spin on things.
Plus the wind, when you come across next to the fake marina at Miami, whew.
Ooh, that wind coming off that Black Sea there, asphalt parking lot.
That's right.
Yeah, that's going to be...
That's going to get you. You got to watch out. The wind off the marina.
Yeah, always get you. Yeah. I'll tell you who is going to fix things, Grace.
Yeah.
That's our first segment. Alan McNish is racing director at Audi, the inside hire that could change everything.
Actual friend of the show, Alan McNish.
He is an actual friend of the show. I've interviewed him 3, possibly 4 times, 3 that I can recall.
Yeah. Actual friend, not,
Couldn't be a nicer guy.
Yeah, I think
let me just tell you a little something about Alan McNish that most of you don't know. So I interviewed him. I went to Petit Le Mans a couple times, and he was driving for Audi down there. And so anyway, I was down there, and the first year I interviewed him, and then the second year, and we had a great chat. He was a great interview, of course. And then Paul knows him, because Paul used to run the Audi driving experience at Sonoma, and Alan would go out there, and so Paul knows him. And so anyway, I went the first year. We had a great conversation, and then the second year I went up to Audi's little enclave up there with the tents and hospitality and the motorhomes and all that. And and I was standing in there with the other press, just waiting to do interviews with him, and I'm sitting there having, drinking soda or water, whatever it was, and he comes into the hospitality, and he's like saying hi to everybody and how you doing and blah blah blah, and I'm kind of standing over there, bumping along. I'm not the guy that's going to rush up and jump in front of everybody and elbow my way in front of him, and I'm not that opportunistic. But anyway, he's kind of going through, and he sees me, he goes, "Oh, hey, how are you?" And I said, "Fine." And he says, "Great, okay." And so I said, "Yeah, I just would love to chat with you." He goes, "Oh, yeah, of course." So he goes into the motorhome, and the press kind of starts to queue up there to go in. And the press woman for Audi comes out, walks towards the back of the line where I'm standing, and she goes, "Okay, Alan's ready to talk to you." And I got to go in front of everybody, walked in the motor. I was in there for like 35, 40 minutes with him. We were talking about his family's trip to Disney World.
Yeah, right.
Super, super good guy. But let me tell you about Alan.
Okay.
Alan is not just an incredibly fast driver. He is a wickedly smart motorsport guy.
Oh, yeah.
Full stop. And so the Audi Revolute F1 team announced on the 24th that Alan's going to take on the newly created role of racing director, effective in Miami this weekend. McNish reports directly to Mattia Binotto, the CEO. His remit basically covers all trackside operations, race strategy, engineering, coordination, driver management, garage operations, and on-track media and partner activities. So he's pretty much kind of in charge. Also retains his existing role as the director of Audi Driver Development Program. Okay. And he's held that since January 2026. So it's a really kind of a dual mandate for him. Feels that structural void with Jonathan Wheatley, who left right in March, and Binotto's been carrying the load until now, so that's good. And so Binotto now handles all the long-term transformation stuff at the headquarters, all that. Yeah. And McNish, he manages the entire circus, right?
All right. I mean, so he's basically Mike Crack.
Yes, but a racing car driver, yes.
But not as good looking in green. I don't know.
He's won many more races, and
I'm just saying.
And, he's the real deal. Is
trackside guy. I know.
3 Le Mans wins, a WEC championship. Yeah,
just being funny.
He's been around.
Yeah, but I mean, so what was Jonathan's role then? I don't know that you know.
He was the team boss, right?
So, right, but so how's that? I guess what I'm saying is it doesn't seem to me this is just I don't like the word team principal. I want to be called, that doesn't seem it. It seems to be a totally different role. So then I was saying, like, if Binotto was like, look, I want to do the stuff at the factory, I don't want to do the trackside stuff, and that's what Jonathan did, I was just trying to figure out, like, if Alan McNish isn't just a, like, one-for-one replacement of what Jonathan did, how does that work?
He's not. This is a new role called racing director, and manages everything at the track. Media, all that stuff. But I was thinking about the context behind this, and I was thinking, all right, so this would be the first senior Audi F1 appointment that comes from inside the existing structure, not senior. I'm talking about senior appointment. Sure. Got a lot of external hires, departures. Andreas Seidel, you remember, Fred Vasseur, Wheatley, Binotto has been deliberately gone to, somebody embedded in the culture. But this is Audi's move, right? This is moving an internal Audi person into a senior role. And I think in some cases it might be a little underappreciated. I think Audi's not just building an F1 team. They have a power unit to develop. They've got a partially state-backed investment structure through the Qatari Sovereign Wealth Fund. They're targeting a 2030 campaign championship target. Binotto can't be in two places at once. The hire solves the real operational bottleneck that they would have with Binotto trying to handle things at the HQ and transformational, and then trying to handle, press and, key stakeholder meetings and that kind of stuff on-prem. And that would be very difficult to do. And so McNish brings a hell of a lot of credibility. But the one thing I say is he does that without ego. That's the one thing I noticed about him when I interviewed him. This is a 3-time Le Mans winner, a WEC champion, and yet he's out making sure I got in to talk to him, remembered me. No ego to him at all. He just wasn't that kind of guy. Super, super good guy. And clearly, Grace, he loves the brand Audi. He's been with Audi forever.
Yeah, he is so I guess the other question I would have is, why didn't they just bring him in the first place?
Yeah, right.
You know what I mean? Like, I think that, again, I don't, if you had Alan McNish, right? Why didn't you always put him in that role? Like, so I wonder that too, as opposed to just like, oh crap, we have a hole. Let's find somebody to fill it. Alan, you can do that, right? So it would be interesting. And again, I don't, Audi's never going to tell us that answer, but I think that would be the other thing that's of interest to me, that like, why now? You could have put anybody in that position.
Right. When they announced this on April 24th, neither you or I were shocked or surprised or anything. We're like, yeah, obviously.
That's,
Yeah, that makes sense. To your point, why didn't you do it earlier? Right.
I don't, so, and I don't know if it's that, and it could be any number of things. It could be that maybe you didn't want to get involved in Formula One. Formula One is its own beast.
It is different.
Like maybe that's just not his jam, and that could be. So then it could just be like, well, you're the most qualified, even though you really didn't want to do this. Maybe it was, put F1. I guess you'd have to side with one side or the other. Like, you could put out Audi people who don't have F1 experience. You could put in F1 experience who don't have Audi experience, right? Like, because there aren't overlap in the Venn diagram of people with F1 experience and people
Audi,
who work for Audi, right? So, if you wanted to make sure that your head, 5 people or whatever, really knew how Formula One worked, then maybe that's why. But now you have that opportunity to put in somebody that is, an Audi guy, but not a Formula One guy.
Yeah, I mean, he drove in Formula One. He drove Toyota and crashed famously at 130R. It was a horrible crash before they reprofiled it. But,
right, but it was a while ago. I guess,
it was quite a while ago. You're right. And Formula One's changed significantly.
A lot. That was pre-Liberty Media, if nothing else, right? It wasn't yesterday that he was here. So.
Yeah, it could have been pre-MTV Kirch ownership.
Right.
Yeah, this is some time ago. So.
I think that the circus is different. So yes, he does have Formula One experience, but it's even it's like when they have drivers on Sky or whatever. It's like, yes, Jensen Button, but that was not yesterday that you were a driver, right? So there is some shelf life to that knowledge. And if you want to know the people now, you really need to be there. I mean, I think that's true of any of us in any professional organization, right? Like, there's turnover, and you have to always keep going to your, conferences or meetings or whatever, so you continue to know the people. If you aren't continually doing that, you're only going to know the people you know, and eventually they retire, right?
Right.
Maybe that was it, and that this was an opportunity that they just kind of like when you get to the McLaren story, we had some time, so we kind of bumped up our plans like by a couple of weeks, right? Like, we were always going to bring in somebody from Audi. We wanted to kind of get more Formula One experience, but Jonathan's leaving, so we'll just push that part of the plan up a little sooner.
Yeah, break glass in case of emergency. And they did, Hey, but your buddy, Zach Brown, speaking of buddies, did you see our own Paul Charsley hanging out with Zach Brown out in Long Beach?
They're friends.
People say, oh, yeah, well, but they used to, Paul knows him from long before McLaren, all right? So they used to race together, and Paul and him in the other series, and so Paul knows him from back in those days. So he and Paul have known each other a long time. This would be JMI marketing when he was doing all that, and so Paul knows him pretty well. So, but anyway, it was a good picture I posted on social media. So, just in case anyone out there didn't know, we do. Paul knows a few people. I know a few people. Anyway, your boy Zach Brown publicly noted this week that Audi's making impressive progress. He said, it's not a throwaway praise, though, because Brown tracks every team incredibly closely. And if he's saying that publicly in a week when he's trying to sell his own upgrade story, I'd say that's pretty good praise.
Yeah, I think so, too. And I think the thing is what Audi wants to accomplish in Formula One is different than what Cadillac wants to accomplish in Formula One, right? I think Audi is very established. I mean, again, we've been joking for as long as we've been doing this podcast that, oh no, this is the year Audi's going to get into Formula One. And here we are. This is the year that Audi's going to get into Formula One. So I think they have a very different sort of ethos as both a company that's in motorsports in Europe and sort of what they want and what they're trying to put forward in the sport. Whereas Cadillac is much more like the scruffy underdogs who are just trying to get a car on the track, right?
Yeah.
That's not really Audi's vibe.
No, not at all. And, this isn't your boomer fans Renault, folks. This is Audi, and you don't want to. Yeah, I know. And just because I agree, no, I'm not a boomer. All right.
No, I
just
love
for the
that.
record.
I love that as a tagline. That's great, Audi.
Yeah.
You're boomer Renault.
Yeah, this isn't Renault. This is Audi.
Yeah, it's great.
And a lot of the folks that built this engine were also the ones that killed it at Le Mans and WEC with the engine there. So they know what they be doing.
Yes.
And so when they say
upstart.
They are not a plucky upstart, and they bought a wonderful team, underfunded team in Hinwell and Sauber.
Yeah.
But they bought that team, a lot of great, very smart men and women with that team already, and then Audi comes in. So this is a different beast, as you very rightly said, Grace, than Cadillac or Haas was at the time, right?
Right.
So, skeptic check. All right, what's the assumption to attack here? Well, you could say, on one hand, McNish is charismatic. He's a charismatic Band-Aid covering the real problem, which is reliability-stricken power unit that has prevented Hülkenberg and Bortoletto from starting multiple races this year. And, okay, well, that's true, but my counterpoint to that might be, this is both sides of the coin, is that trackside leadership matters independently of the power unit reliability. The reason you need somebody like McNish is precisely because when things go wrong on Saturday morning, you need a trusted decision maker at the garage who does not need to phone Hinwell before every call. Clean structure under pressure is how these midfield teams stop losing positions. They should not be losing. And I think in those cases, this is where Alan certainly has that legacy F1 experience with a team that was struggling in Toyota.
Right.
He's done the endurance series for years. So you talk about seeing troubles and issues and, in race and development and all that stuff. He gets it, And I think that's what he brings to this too. I don't think he's a Band-Aid on this with a much bigger issue. I think he's the kind of guy that can help them solve the issue and remain calm in the crucible of a race weekend. So I think that's good. So, Grace, my questions. Does this structure actually work long term? Bonatto is a factory team principal and McNish at the track. That model demands exceptional communication and shared authority between the two of them.
Right.
And what happens when they disagree on a Saturday strategy call mid-race weekend?
Well, I mean, that's going to happen, right? So I think you would have, right. I mean, so you would have to have a way of dealing with that. I think that it makes sense. I mean, it's not like I know either Bonatto or Alan McNish personally, we're like this, but it makes sense that I think Bonatto does fit as the factory guy. That seems to be better fit for him than he was when he was trackside. And so I think that, like you said, like as long as when Alan has to go, call Matteo Bonatto like he's Gene Haas, right? Like, whoop, I got to go call Bonatto. It'll be okay. Right? That I think that, and it would be interesting, right? Because they, just as people, Bonatto's always been an engineer. McNish has been a driver. So it would be interesting to see how it could be great, right? Because it's two different perspectives. Yeah. It could also be a little rough because it's two different perspectives. But I don't think either of them would walk into that blindly. I think that if you were Audi, you would want to say, hey, Bonatto, we have an idea. We heard you. You don't want to be doing as much of this stuff. We were thinking, what do you think? You would hope that that's the conversation that happened. And same thing with Alan McNish. You're not just surprised throwing people together and just going to let them fight it out. So I agree. I think as long as they can communicate well, but and it maybe and how hands-on or hands-off Bonatto is with what's happening trackside, right? Maybe to him, that's not really what he's interested in being involved in. So it works fine. Yeah.
My hunch would be that I kind of feel like Bonatto will give him some leash to begin with. Yeah. And as long as Alan's hunches play out and they're correct, then I think they're good. If he gives him quite a bit of leash and he stubs his toe on every decision, then there'll be an issue. But
I think the other thing too is that, I don't know about your job, but in my job, there are certain things that nobody wants to do, right? So so I'll say I'm in charge of documentation for this project, right? That's part of my job. And I always am like, well, people can be critical of the documentation, but the first thing I'm going to say is, well, do you want to do it? And they're going to go, no.
Yeah.
Okay, so then you can only be so critical. Like, you can do enough so that it's good documentation and I don't make a mistake or something like that. But you're never going to be too critical, because then I'm going to go, okay, well, then you do it. And so maybe it's some of that too. Like, you have to give
Right.
McNish some space, because if you're too critical, then you have to do it. And I don't want to do that. So then people are just sort of like, Grace, you're doing a great job. I have no complaints. Keep doing what you're doing. It's fine, right? Because nobody else wants to do it. So there could be some of that too, that, he has to give him some space because he doesn't want to do it.
Yeah, I agree. And the other is McNish also keeps his driver development program. I find that interesting. I don't know if it's necessarily a conflict of interest, but he also is managing now Hulkenberg and Bortoletto's weekends. So I'm kind of curious. I mean, let me just think this out. If you're Alan, and I've got Nico and Bortoletto that I got to manage as my two drivers.
Right.
But I've also got these three other drivers that I'm personally managing coming up that I want to get in the seat and get seat time. Is that a bit of a conflict? Because remember, does a driver development director who wants his junior F1 drivers in the seat make a fully objective call about the history or the current lineup or the future lineup? I mean, remember, there was a clear line between Helmut and Christian.
Right. Of course, that's the first person that comes to mind, right?
Yeah.
But what you would hope is that this gives Alan McNish the best information to know about what's coming up, right? He would be able to know, hey, we have driver A, B, and C that are in the junior fields. You know what? A would be really suited for this. So maybe I should get in C, maybe not so much. So maybe I try to fit C in, WEC or somewhere else, right? That we have a program, because he's not as suited for these cars. So you would hope that would just give him more insight into who are the best people to fit into those two seats in Formula One. That would be the ideal, right? The very objective, I don't want to say data driven, but the concept of not every driver is going to be suited for Formula One, not any more than Binotto is suited to be trackside, right? If that's not what he wants to do, then that's not what he wants to do. Yeah. So you would hope that gives him more information, because he has access to all of the drivers, right? What you don't want is somebody to just be like, well, I like driver A and I don't like Bortoletto. He's a jerk face. So I'm going to put A in Gabby's seat and Gabby's out of here. That would be the worst thing to happen. But that doesn't really benefit Audi, and that doesn't really benefit Alan McNish. So hopefully it just gives him the ability to see across all the driver potential that they have and figure out where is best for everybody.
I was thinking about it when I was making the notes, and I thought, Gabby, we've seen some really impressive drives from him. Yeah. And he is rated highly.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And if anything, I think this would put pressure on Nico.
Well, Nico's also getting a little long in the tooth, right? So I think
that's what I'm saying.
I think you're right. I just picked Gabby because he's the least jerk face person. So I feel like if I say, Gabby the jerk face, he's not. So, but it's actually Nico is the person you would be looking to replace. And so I agree with that.
Yeah. Okay. Watch this space this weekend. You'll see Alan there. I think it's a net positive for the team. It's good.
Yeah.
Excited they got Alan in. I think he'll bring something to the dance. I think it's good.
And maybe it would help Nico, not mentoring, that's not the right word, but there's some sort of relationship between, hey, we have junior drivers A, B, and C. One of these guys is going to replace you in more than one less than 5 years when you retire, because you just can't do that. You're not Fernando Alonso. You're not making it to 42. So what do you want to do? You've been great. So there could be some, mentorship is too strong of a word, but some relationship there between Nico Hulkenberg and the upcoming drivers.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. We can just see who looks best in the gray pants. Yeah. That's how we're going to make this decision.
Right. Right. All right, let's go to the next segment.
Okay.
Flip over to segment 2. Okay, Grace, talking about your team. McLaren
That's
brings
right.
a completely new car to Miami.
World
The
champions.
world
McLaren.
champion McLaren.
Put some respect on that name.
That's
sir.
right. That's right. So what's confirmed? Well, team principal Andrea Stella confirmed on the 23rd that McLaren intended to deliver a completely new car from an aerodynamic upgrades point of view across the Miami and
Some
Canadian
squiggly
Grand
bits
Prix.
will be different.
Yes. This was always part of the development plan, but the 5-week break accelerated the timeline because they were sitting around twiddling thumbs.
What else are we going to do?
Yeah, well, exactly. They're just like sitting around woking. Oh, would you hand me the creamer? Thanks.
Get the 3D printers going. We got some squiggly bits to make.
Hey, the HP's out of ink. Did you get more ink for the inkjet? Yeah.
They're still running, dot matrix printers there. It's fine.
Yeah, so, they were sitting around. It accelerated things because,
Yeah, sure.
That's what they did. Look, I think it's safe to say that this year's car started a little underdeveloped. Mm-hmm. The team was drawn into that late season championship with Red Bull, mind you, diverting a lot of their development time to last year's car. Their power unit integration with Mercedes also needed time to mature with the new power unit and the software and the batteries and all that crap.
Right.
The result was that the car failed to start in China with either Norris or Piastri, and that was perhaps a real low water mark for them. Japan was a little more encouraging. Piastri qualified third, led the race, finished second. And McLaren technical chief confirmed upgrades are coming and said it would be nice to think they can beat Mercedes. That's a pretty honest statement, of uncertainty, as you'll hear from a senior technical figure.
Yeah.
But, whatever. So why is this context? Context is king. Why does it matter? Well, first of all, McLaren has form at Miami, Grace.
Just a bit.
They definitely like this
it's their
track.
place. It's their place.
Yeah, their 2024 upgrade package at this exact venue is described as completely game-changing. Remember Paul and I talking about it back then, and effectively launched their championship campaign. The team knows this circuit, the paddock, the atmosphere, the timing. Everything works well for them here.
Yeah.
The business context matters because McLaren are reigning Constructors' Championship sponsors, commercial partners, tire commercial ecosystem that follows McLaren, expects to be competitive here. This is, the site of some great performances from McLaren. Every race they spend in third or lower is an erosion of that commercial narrative. So they need to turn that around. And the Miami upgrade is as much an investor relations move as it is a sporting one, if I'm honest.
Right.
So that's important. The irony is that McLaren uses Mercedes' power unit. If Mercedes continues to win even after McLaren's upgrades, well, then it might suggest that the engine is a meaningful competitive advantage that chassis development alone isn't going to cure for them. And that is going to be difficult to overcome. That would be uncomfortable position for the team that prides itself on having the best chassis in the paddock.
That's right.
So I think that's an interesting move. Is there an assumption to attack on this? Well, you could, on one side of the coin, you could be saying, hey, it's a completely new car from McLaren, immediately challenge the Mercedes at the front.
Yeah.
The counterpoint to that might be, well, Vasseur said every team will bring major upgrades to Miami. And if that is true, the relative order may not change as dramatically as one might think. McLaren may close the gap, but if Ferrari and Red Bull and everyone else are also bringing new aero, the field compresses without necessarily reordering.
Right.
Yeah.
Everybody takes the same big step forward. Right.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Nothing
So
changes.
the team that converts simulation gains into track gains most efficiently will benefit the most, and that's not always the team that spent the most during the break. That's just who did it right. And let me say this about that. Like I said earlier, the simulation data that they do with the refinement of the regs will be crucial. The actual data that they have in first three races, also very, 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 very important, but not the same as what they're going to see in Miami. So
Right.
Miami is a bit of a hiccup, a reset of that original three-race data set, because the deployment of energy was quite a bit different then. It's not useless data, of course not. It's critical data.
New data is useless, but yeah.
No, but they are wandering in newer fields here, right?
Yeah, and I think the other thing too is, I think everybody. I mean, I agree with Fred. I mean, even if we'd had the two races that we lost here in the spring break,
Yeah.
everybody was going to bring upgrades to Miami anyway.
Yeah.
I think the days of waiting to Catalunya, right? That's old school logic that I still carry sometimes. I'm like, no, we have to wait till we get to Catalunya before you bring updates. Nobody waits that
brings
long.
upgrades till Spain.
Right, because now Spain is like race 10, whereas
Yeah.
it used to be race 5, right?
Right.
So yeah, you brought them in much sooner. But so in that sense, I do think that everybody will bring upgrades. It's how much of an upgrade, because maybe you have 5 upgrades planned and you're going to bring 2 to Miami and 3 to Catalunya, but with this extra time, maybe you're bringing all 5 of them to Miami instead of 2 and 3 or something like that. Like, it's just kind of changed the order, but nobody stands still that long in the front.
Yeah.
So I think that's right. Everybody's going to bring upgrades. So we'll just see kind of what they have planned.
Yeah, so, Grace,
Todd.
Stella's language about the budget cap, the development schedule, and the Mercedes integration, all pointing to a late starting car, I think is honest. I think that's being transparent.
Well, their early starting car didn't do so good, so I hope that their late starting car does a little bit better.
Right.
Yes.
But it's a bit of a framing exercise, too. The real test is whether Miami reveals a McLaren that can win, or a McLaren that can qualify second and finish third.
Right.
That'll be the key there, I think. Also, if GP is confirmed to join McLaren as their chief racing officer no later than 2028,
Right.
Verstappen's race engineer going to a reigning champion, that bodes well. Does that shape any of Stella's current thinking? Does McLaren now have a pipeline to information about Red Bull's development philosophy that they didn't have before?
No.
You
Not-
don't think so?
No, because, I mean, isn't Red Bull just going to cut them out? Like, I mean, that's what always
Well,
happens.
That's what, this is where it gets a little odd, right? He hasn't said, McLaren has come out and said he's starting on this date, right?
No, that's right. We don't know.
We don't
up
know.
until 2028.
28, right? That's
no
all we
later
know.
than.
Right. The question now becomes, if you're Red Bull, as much as GP's been a mainstay of your organization,
You have to cut him out.
he's going to McLaren.
Right. Oh, and
Wouldn't
hopefully
you just put him on garden leave?
Red Bull has to know.
Yeah.
I can't imagine that Red Bull also only knows no later than 2028. That's
No, they know when
crap.
his
They
contract
know when
is
he's
up.
going.
Yeah, they know when his contract's up.
So, like, we know that, but I still do think it's kind of weird that McLaren is the one that's kind of broke this story. So clearly there is some behind the scenes kind of like back and forth between the two teams. But I mean, I'm not saying in Miami Red Bull's going to cut GP out, but they're going to cut him out because he can't know what they're doing, especially because they know he's going. It's not even like it's not a surprise. They know he's going, so they're
Yeah.
going to cut him out. So not tomorrow, but yes, at some point.
I agree.
They know when he's going, and they'll put him on 3 months of gardening leave or whatever, and then they will actually send him, over to McLaren.
Yeah, I agree. I would think if you're Red Bull, if you're Laurent Mekies, you got to be thinking, all right, I mean, everybody loves GP, of course, but
Yeah,
he's going to the enemy.
I mean,
and the reality
and he knows
of it
that.
is,
Everybody knows that. Yeah,
I don't know that I'd want him around hearing all of our strategy, hearing our development pace, hearing what we're developing, all of that stuff. And then if you think, okay, well, just don't have him in any of those meetings and don't CC him on any of those emails, well, that's fine too, but he's going to have to
gonna
know
hurt you.
some things when
Well,
he
that's-
shows up for a race weekend.
I mean, that's why you send people on gardening leave, right? Because you can't have
Exactly.
them both on your pit wall and cut out.
Exactly.
Because they still have a job to do, and if they don't know something, and, they don't know some component of the car, and then that component fails, and they didn't even know it existed. Well, that's not going to help your team either. So you send them on gardening leave. So,
and if that's the case, if you're Max, okay, so now all of a sudden we're not going to be talking to GP about a new trick piece of kit we're putting on.
Right.
And we're not going to put it on Max's car. We're going to put it over here.
I don't think so.
With Isaac. No, that's not going to float with Max either. So they got a bit of a conundrum here in what they're going to do, and I don't think we've heard the end of it. I suspect there'll be a gardening leave coming up. And remember, we were talking when this kind of came out, we think, wow, that's a long ways away to announce that he's leaving, just like Lewis at Mercedes, right?
Right.
And then I got to thinking, no, wait a minute. That's actually probably a pretty good idea, because you got to know Zach was like, all right, GP, let's do the deal. Yeah. Fine, your contract's over at the end of 2027. That's fine. We'll start you on 2028, and we'll go out. We'll frame the narrative. I don't want Red Bull saying it in the press. We're going to go out and announce to the world that we signed you, and you're going to start no later than 2028, and then we'll let Red Bull deal with the headache. And while you're over there, just soak everything up like a sponge.
Right. That's right.
And then it's going to force Red Bull's hand. Either they let him go early, or maybe you wait a few months and then Zach goes to Red Bull and saying, hey, tell you what, you let him go early at the end of this year and we'll give you $3 million and we'll walk away and everybody's fine.
Or he's just sitting at home on gardening leave and you're paying him anyway.
Yeah, that's
You
right.
decide.
You paid him anyway.
Yeah, that's
right. So
right.
what do you want to do? So I think it's actually a really good move.
But no, you're right. I agree. That is a very shrewd move. I hadn't quite thought of it that way. But I also think it is Red Bull's problem. But
it is.
And they can't, at some point, are just going to have to send him on gardening leave because he can't be on pit wall anymore.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that's going to be, that's going to be pretty tough, I think. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Have we said everything we're going to say about that? I guess we have.
Yeah. We'll see what Miami brings, but I think everybody's bringing upgrades to Miami. That makes sense.
Yeah. Well, we'll just turn the page there. Okay. Yeah. All right. Turn the page. Segment 3. Woohoo! Red Bull copies Ferrari at Silverstone, and Verstappen's future hangs in the air. What is Max gonna do? Nobody knows.
What is Lawrence Stroll going to do? Nobody knows.
Nobody knows what Larry's going to do.
What the hell?
I have no idea. So what's confirmed? Well, Red Bull conducted a filming day at Silverstone on the 24th with Max driving a substantially revised RB22. The most visible change was a version of the so-called Macarena rear wing, a concept first seen on Ferrari at the Chinese Grand Prix that featured a near full 180 rotation. It's almost like those rotisserie chickens at the grocery store.
Except not as useful.
That's true. I got to be honest. For $5 or $8, whatever those are, they're kind of tasty.
They're pretty tasty. And you get a lot out of that, right? Like you can get several meals out of it. You're good.
Yeah. You go strip that off. You can get several. You're a thrifty shopper, Grace, and I appreciate that about you.
There you go. So it's a chicken. You can make anything on it. So.
I know. If anybody's following me, I got inspired by our own Paul Charsley to try to up my cooking game.
I've enjoyed your post. So
yeah, so my wife loves it because she doesn't have to cook dinner anymore, and she's like, woo! After all these years, she's done.
This goes back to my earlier story about I could complain about the work you're doing, but you're not. I'm not doing your job. It's great. Yeah. You're doing great, Todd.
You're doing great.
This phone is terrible, but you're doing great.
Know.
Keep trying.
So I call this series my meteoric rise to cooking mediocrity. Yeah. And so I did make a chicken marsala though.
See, that's good. That's some skill.
That's good. Yeah, and pasticcio and doing some fun stuff. Okay. Trying to keep up with Paul, the chef extraordinaire.
Nobody can. I mean, although sometimes Paul puts stuff together, I'm like, I'm not sure, but okay. Cool.
I know. I like those.
I'm like, all right, maybe, because sometimes you think, well, that sounds so weird. It probably is great together. At some point, a movie is so bad it's great again, right? It just hits that other side. So, but no, his stuff always looks good too. So
it does. Yeah,
I'm
I agree.
here for that.
So additional changes to the RB22 include reworked side pods, more aggressive angle, floor adjustments aimed at improving stability, front wing mods, 2 small winglets adjacent to the halo to manage airflow around the helmet, assumed. And the car is still running 9 to 10 kilograms over the minimum weight, and that's a priority area for them. Red Bull team principal Laurent McNish described the Miami package as a second season launch, so this would be similar to McLaren's.
Oh, maybe that Fred knows something.
Yeah. That's unusually frank admission that the first 3 races were spent in survival mode from Laurent, but fair enough. Willing to accept that. After 3 races, Red Bull 6 in constructors. Max is way down in the order. That's not good. But let's see. But what else about that?
Mid-pack Max. He's doing great. He loves it.
Mid-pack Max. Yeah, he's what is he trailing the Alpines now, or on level on points, something like that. So the context of this, Red Bull's copying Ferrari's Macarena wing is telling for 2 reasons, I kind of think. First, it confirms that the concept is genuinely useful on a different chassis architecture, not just the Ferrari-specific solution. And second, it tells you that Red Bull's aero direction is in the first 3 races was not just uncompetitive, but was actively wrong enough that they're borrowing from another rival rather than iterating their own philosophy. Which I'm not saying Red Bull's never done that. Of course they have. But I'm just trying to think of the last time they just patentedly copied a kind of tech off of another car. It's usually not Adrian Newey's thing. But he does take copious notes of other cars. So, so when he was
his little moleskin.
Yeah. Ferrari actually abandoned their version of the Macarena wing after China due to some reliability concerns. Hamilton said they rushed it in Shanghai.
There's like 700 crazy little pieces going on with that thing.
I know, but Red Bull is now developing the concept with more time than Ferrari had. And that's an interesting reversal if you think about it. Ferrari comes out with the wing. Oh, hey, we tested it. Oh, yeah, we're not going to run it. Hey, look, we're testing it again. Oh, yeah, we're not going to run it. And then Red Bull, hey, look what we're doing.
Either that or it was a red herring and Ferrari was never going to run it. They just, like Red Bull just took the bait.
I'd be Ferrari, I'm not saying that we're going to use a flipping wing, but if we wanted to make a flipping wing, would that be against the rules?
We might want to try it. I recommend it.
The Verstappen thing, this is a genuine business risk for Red Bull, not just a sporting one. The team's entire commercial proposition for the last 4 years been built around Max winning. Their title sponsorship, driver merchandise, social following, broadcaster contracts, all leveraged on him. And Verstappen, who's 9th in the standings and unhappy, is a different commercial product to a Verstappen who is dominant. And I think that's a lingering issue.
That's like the understatement of the year right there.
Yeah, it is, right? I know. Thank you, Captain. First, you must master your fear, or fear will become your master.
Yeah, that was very Will Buxton. No, I mean, he's not George, right?
Right.
Who would, winning or losing, George is kind of the same, right? But, it's not Max Jam.
No, it's not. So, Grace, if the Miami upgrade lands and Verstappen is competitive again, does his public discontent disappear as quickly as it appeared? Or has he revealed something permanent about his relationship with the sport and the team that does not go away just because the car gets faster?
I'm going to put it this way. So I think the answer is no. I think he really is not happy with the role the sport is in. Now, if he was leading, he would be less grumpy about his current situation and the current, not his situation, the current way of Formula One, right? Because I get that. He's basically been given the Shim Sham Shell game or something here, that he was sold on this bill of goods and now it's his other bill of goods and he's not down with it. So the fact that he is mid-pack Max just is more salt in the wound. But I don't think even if he was running 1-2 that he would be like, oh, Formula One, what problems? There's no problems in Formula. I think he would be just as discontent with the idea that this isn't racing. Yeah. To him, this isn't racing. This isn't what he wants to do. and it just hurts more because he's further down the field.
Yeah.
But he's not, he wouldn't suddenly, he's not playing games. He does not want to do this. This is not what he thinks racing is about.
I agree. Yeah, I agree. So Julian Palmer said that if Verstappen left Red Bull, the replacement he would look at is Charles Leclerc. And it's an interesting conversation that, in my mind, has a little bit of momentum, because only if Verstappen's contract exit clause are actually triggered, I guess. But what is that threshold, and who decides when and what that threshold is reached? I guess that's between Red Bull and them. But it's an interesting point.
Plus, he's grumpy. Who wants that around? At some point, you just let him go.
Right. And I'm curious about Charles Leclerc. You know, he's toiled a long time at Ferrari.
I know, but at some point,
I know.
I don't. You know, it's the curse of Alonso, right? Everything sucks, and then you leave,
and then Lewis wins the championship.
Yeah, exactly. Right. I don't know. I mean, I can't. Yikes! I don't know. I can't.
If I was Piastri, I'd think about it.
Oh yeah, heck yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, but I think that, and I think you'd have to get a sense of what the work situation is like at Red Bull now too. That's a different game as well. Like the ethos seems to be very different there than it was.
Yeah. Well, we know Mac Wiebe is friends with Red Bull.
Oh yeah, they're tight, super tight. Those two, they love each other.
I don't know. It'd be interesting to see what happens there.
But again, it's a different thing, right? Like, you work for a boss. You don't necessarily work for a company. You know what I mean? Like, company ethos is a different beast than just like, I don't like that guy. Oh, that guy's not there anymore. Okay, I'll come work there, right? And so I could see that that there's been enough of the upper management change at Red Bull that maybe it's just now you'll work there, but. I don't, Charles Leclerc, I don't know. You're right. I can see Oscar Piastri, because I think that McLaren is not going to turn its back on Lando Norris. So then your hand's forced, right? Yeah. If you want to win a championship, if you want to be number one and you don't want to be Lando's Rubens Barrichello for the rest of your career, you're going to have to go to another team.
Yeah, agreed.
But I don't know why Charles Leclerc would do that.
I don't know. It's a good point. Okay, and then finally, segment 4. Well, Miami, as the season reset. It kind of is, if you think about it, what the spring break actually may decide. The 5-week gap between Japan and Miami is the longest season gap since the 1999 opening rounds comes to mind. I think I have that right. Unlike summer-winter shutdowns, there's no mandatory factory closure, meaning that all 11 teams are free to work unrestricted throughout April with a budget cap and aerodynamic testing limits, of course. Fred Vasseur, Ferrari's principal, said everyone will bring new upgrades to Miami and that he sees it as a new championship starting. It's a rare moment of tactical transparency, if you ask me, from a team principal who usually manages information pretty carefully. The FIA has extended Friday practice from 60 to 90 minutes, specifically because the new regulations have changed since the team were last on track. So Miami is a sprint weekend, which makes it even more difficult with only one practice session. So the extra 30 minutes is a genuine operational gift for the teams for sure. Right. Interesting to note, though, Grace, on the book face, I saw some advertising from the Miami Grand Prix that was advertising $75 for weekend tickets. Now,
are they obscured standing general admission? I mean,
I showed grandstands, and not the kind of pricing that would suggest a sellout, standing room only kind of fan support.
The only metric that matters.
Yeah, I mean, back in 2013, 2015-ish.
Yeah.
I remember you could go to COTA and get a general admission weekend pass for $99.
Yeah, about $100.
Still more than $75.
Yeah. Well, that's what I'm saying. I mean, it probably would depend where and how close. I mean, it's kind of the opposite of airplanes, right? Like, the closer you wait for your trip, the more expensive the flight is. This is going to be the opposite, right? Because this is going to be like lower level, not so great, not sitting near each other, obstructed view. $75, we just need to sell out.
Yeah, true. So we'll see. I'm sure it'll be a sellout. Everything's a sellout. All the races are a sellout.
That's what Dominicali told us. It's fine.
He said everything's sellout. The
all a
fans
sellout.
love the new regulations.
All a sellout.
Passing is passing. All the races are sellouts.
Why do you doubt me?
Just things could not literally be better for Formula
they're
One
great.
right now,
They're great.
according to Formula One. So some context why it matters. Well, the break was not just an upgrade window, of course. It was a data processing window. 3 new regulation race weekends generated enormous amount of correlation data. Of course, as I mentioned earlier, the teams that spent April running simulations against real-world results rather than just manufacturing new parts
Right.
could enter Miami with a clear picture of what their car actually does versus what they thought it would do and what these new upgrades will bring to the correlation data that they harvested prior to the updates. I think that's important, but they also have to factor in the refinements or the tweaks to the regulations that they now have on energy harvest and deployment. So that is a curveball. We mentioned before the teams that benefit most from this kind of break historically are the ones with a lot of organizational clarity, strong factory resources, of course, the ability to make decisions quickly and under uncertainty. These are you think of the Mercedes, the McLaren, Ferrari, Red Bull, those kind of things. And it does describe Mercedes, Ferrari, and McLaren. It does not necessarily describe Red Bull in its current state or Audi in its first manufacturer year or Aston Martin, who is in a bit of a crisis at the moment. So...
Understatement of the year.
Yeah, I know. This just in, Aston Martin in crisis mode. So look, the point of this all is that there's a structural argument that the spring break may have permanently shifted the competitive narrative. If the teams that were already ahead entered April with more resource and cleaner governance, they likely built a wider gap during the break than would have been possible race by race, if I'm honest. That's my hunch. I mean, I could see Mercedes going into the break being the clear leaders and coming out the clear leaders, if that makes sense.
Yes. I mean, because that's the thing, too, is that it may not be as different. I mean, again, it goes back to everybody takes one step forward. Well, then nothing's changed, right?
Yeah. Right. So, I don't know, 2 sides of the coin. The assumption to attack might be Miami genuinely resets the championship and the field is closer than before the break. I'd say the counterpoint to that is Fred Vassar's new championship framing is partly aspirational on Ferrari's part. I hate to admit that, being the Ferrari fan that I am. If Mercedes brought major upgrades too, which Wolff strongly implied they did, then the relative gaps could actually widen this weekend. I mean, it could go the other way. You don't know, right? And with the refinements of the regulations, it could really go the other way.
I don't know. Maybe Alpine will be P1, P2. Who knows? Anything can be happening.
Yeah. I think all in all, I think the spring break isn't really a competitive leveler. It's more of an amplifier. It's going to amplify things, I think. It'll amplify the regulation set and the tweaks and whether these regulations are fit for purpose or not. It's going to amplify whether the fans like these regulations even after they've been tweaked. That's a big risk they're running this weekend. It's going to amplify aero packages, chassis packages. It's going to amplify these power units with the new refinements and tweaks to the regulations. Yeah, I can see it more of an amplifier. Whoever has the best resource and best organized is going to be the most efficient, I think. Because
these 2, the bonus weeks, I agree with you. It's an amplifier, right? You had to already been heading in. It's what we said about McLaren, right? If they're already heading in this direction, they just got there a little sooner because they didn't have 2 races to deal with. But I don't think you could suddenly be like, oh, left turn, we're going to go another direction. It just made you amplified you. It moved you faster in the direction you were already going in. There wasn't enough time for you to completely rewrite everything in 5 weeks.
Yeah. No, that's right.
I agree with you.
So, Grace, look, this is a front weekend, too. And I keep thinking, okay, so that means the first piece of real data is from the new car The upgraded car. And the new regulation says sprint qualifying. There's not a lot of warm-up laps there to recalibrate. And how do you manage the risk of damaging upgrade packages on a weekend where you can't afford to bend the car on a Friday? That's even more pressure.
It'll be a success. Sold out.
A sold out raging success. $75 gets you in.
There'll be passing. And last time I checked the dictionary, passing was just anybody getting past another person.
It's a pass.
So it's a pass. It all counts.
Doesn't matter if it's artificial. It's a pass, damn it.
A pass is a pass.
That's why in the NASCAR race, you ignore the first 1,200 passes, and it's only the last 4 that matter.
That's right.
So there you go. So,
yeah.
Grace, if racing is genuinely better in Miami thanks to the energy management tweaks, does the FIA use that as justification to say the 2026 formula works and resist further changes? And if Verstappen is still unhappy after a cleaner-looking race, what's the next step in that conversation?
Okay,
if he starts saying, yeah, I know you tweaked them, but this still sucks.
They need to slow their roll. This is Formula One. You also only had 5 weeks to fix this. And what actually needs fixing, nobody can fix. Right? Because that would require you to redo the whole car. We can't do that in 5 weeks.
We're stuck with this.
Right. So if anybody is out there and they really expect, like, we're going to get to Miami and we're like, holy shit, where's this been for all? That's not going to happen. It's going to look the same.
Yeah.
They can only tweak it. You can't, there's nothing you can mechanically or engineeringly do to make these cars better in 5 weeks, right? Mm-mm. So everybody calm down, right? Like, it's not going to be all of a sudden, like, amazing. It's not. So manage expectations. And again, I stand by Verstappen. Even if he from Miami until, Abu Dhabi wins every single race, which I hate that idea that I even said that into the world and put that out there. But if he wins every race from Miami to Abu Dhabi, he still can be mad at this racing.
Yeah.
He isn't complaining about the fact that he's not winning. He's complaining about the fact that this isn't racing.
I agree with you.
And so if he doesn't feel this is racing, I mean, this is like, I'm eating this bar of chocolate and all I wanted was strawberries. Well, it's not strawberries.
I know, yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, so if this isn't to him, energy management isn't racing to him, it doesn't matter that he's not winning. It's just more salt in the wounds that he's not. But he's still going to be just as mad about it because it's not what he wants to be doing.
Right.
This isn't his dream.
I caught a portion of, I keep doing this to this guy, and it isn't fair. It's a podcast, and I can never remember the
That's
name
not going to help
podcast.
me. The one with Jake Humphries?
Yes, Jake Humphries. Yes, that's it. Jake, seriously.
Jake Humphries.
I am not purposely doing that.
And the other guy from Wham.
Yes. Yes. No, I know him. That's Andrew Ridgely.
See, there you go. Right, you do. But we'll just call him Jake Humphries Andy Ridgely. We will never learn the other guy's name.
Yeah. Jake, I'm so sorry. You deserve much better. And Jake I swear Humphries. I don't do that on purpose. No. It's just that I enjoy
the other
so
blonde
much
guy.
stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
It's fine.
But high performance or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Anyway, a very good show, Jake. And I'm not purposely denigrating you here. It's
I just have no memory. I wish it was actual denigration because then I wouldn't be so worried about my memory when the show ends. Yes.
No, it's like, I am so bad. And it's always Jake. It's terrible. Anyway, no, Jake, well done. He has a podcast up with Rob Smedley and Otmar.
Oh.
Yeah, go watch that. You'll enjoy it. Yeah, you'll enjoy it.
My favorite member of my family. I'll have to go watch that.
Yeah, you'll enjoy it. It's good. But it was interesting because they were talking about the engineering, and they basically, Jake asked, has F1 broken its series with these regulations? And they're both like,
I'm just looking at my shoes. Don't make eye contact. Don't make eye contact.
They were navel gazing. They tried to back. Effectively, they said yes.
Yes, right. Your pause was very telling, sir.
They end up going down the road of saying, well, it's really about entertainment. F1 is entertainment. And Liberty's made no bones about it. It's entertainment.
That is the show, right?
It is. And Otmar said, but here's the thing. If we're going to all agree that it's entertainment, then go back, put the V8s and the V10s in, let these things scream and let them go at it, because that's entertainment. That's what people want to see. Nobody cares about managing your energy and your hybrids. Only the car companies care about that on rapid prototyping, road relevant technology and engineering. But the fans, but that's not entertaining to fans.
No.
A V10 screaming down the straight or a V8
I think
is and wheel to wheel and just going 10 tenths. That's what's exciting.
I agree, and Otmar's right, except that's not what they mean by the show. They mean driver personalities. That's the show. That's
the show. Drive to Survive is the show.
Correct.
The racing is for the manufacturers and engineering.
Right.
Yeah. And fans, I think, sooner or later are going to get tired of that. So we'll see. Very
quickly. And all is going to take, again, I think out of 80-21, I learned that I accepted too much. That I was like the abuse that the marshalling and the stewards of Formula One. I was like, well, it's Formula One. They just make up the rules as they go. But other people were just like, no, this is unacceptable. You're right. This is unacceptable. Yeah. You should actually have actual rules and you should stick with them and you should have professional referees just like every other sport. Why do I accept that that's not how Formula One works? Right. New fans don't know to be abused by this sport the way I do as a longstanding fan. They're going to actually demand something like, partiality and, the same rules being applied race to race.
That's right. All right. That's time. Little Albon's cats. Let me find the headlines here.
Well, look faster, Todd.
I am looking. Hold on. All right, Grace. Hit us with
how do you
some
find
Albon's
more
cats.
Todd lines? I don't know. Like, how many?
I know. I have this one.
Seriously, Todd?
Yeah.
Stop yelling at Todd. Well, look faster, Todd.
Yes.
No, Todd, not now.
I know. There's only about 42 people in the world with the name Todd.
Yes.
We were all born around the same time, too. And then they just ditched that name, never to be seen again. It might as well be on some, archaic hieroglyphic in a tomb in ancient Egypt. But that's about the only place you'll find the name.
It's interesting.
Yes, it is.
All right.
Yes.
I wonder why, because it's not like there was an athlete or something. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know why that. I would be interested in why Todd was a name and nobody's named that now.
All right.
Stop yelling at Todd.
That's Rob Lowe saying that, by the way.
I know. Well, I mean, I'm named after a grandma that doesn't exist, so it's fine.
Grace!
Yeah.
Because nobody's named Grace of my age. There's lots of kids now named Grace. Those kids are now 20, but those kids...
See, but your name made a comeback. Mine will never make a comeback.
No,
it was
that's
done.
Interesting.
It was done.
All right, a little ethnographic work I got to do later. Okay, not part of Albon's cats. So I do have some, however. So first, I wanted to let everybody know that while you were all waiting for Miami to start, MotoGP already started. So we had her ref this past. We had her ref this past weekend. The sprint race was interesting because it rained and it was kind of chaotic. And somehow Marc Marquez both lost and won that race. It was kind of amazing. As always, I don't know how. Luck seems like the wrong thing, but somehow he just is able to always and that worked. What?
Does anybody have anything for Marc Marquez? No, they don't.
The answer to that is his own shoulder, because as we then found out in the race, not doing so great. So I do think that if you are sitting at home and on your bucket list is seeing Marc Marquez race, you should be getting on that. I don't see how this is going to go much longer. So
no.
Unfortunately, because I think nobody wants that. Nobody, you don't want, Jorge Lorenzo kind of like they have an accident, they just never can come back from it.
Yeah.
So, so not so great for Marc Marquez in the race, but I don't know, somehow he and Pecco did just great in the sprint race, so who knows? Rain. But I will say my boy Johann Zarco was looking pretty good, so I'm happy to see that, and that Martin made the whole race the whole way around and didn't fall off his bike.
Nice.
So that's good. And also, as much as I like the mid-pack max as a nice alliteration, Matt Beers, who does the call for the MotoGP race, referred to Fabio Di Giannantonio as front row Fabio. I was like, very nice, front row Fabio, who also did very good in both the sprint and the race. So Now you have 2 front row Fabio, which is not Fabio Quartararo because we all know he's not on the front row. That Yamaha not happening, but Fabio Di Antonio is doing great. So, yeah. So there
how
you
about
go.
that?
Keep on watching. They're in Spain next, I think, because it totally threw me off when I looked at the calendar. Because I think it's like Formula 1's in Miami, MotoGP's in Spain, then Formula 1's in Canada, and then it was just like I hate it when it all gets jumbled in my brain, and I just know that we're going to Spain, but I don't know what we're watching.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, keep watching MotoGP.
Cool.
It's happening. And then my other piece of Albon's cats, as we've alluded to multiple times during the show. So Stefano Domenicali did an interview with the race with Ed Straw and Jonathan Noble. I don't know who that is. Jonathan Noble. I don't know. Again, I wish my brain worked better sometimes, but it's all right. Jonathan Noble. And I just wanted to give a shout out to Ed Straw because true professional journalist, that when they asked Stefano Domenicali, so why do you think racing is so great right now? Not quite that way, but that was basically the question. Like, you seem so confident about how great everything is. You're the only person that seems confident in how great it is. Why is that? Domenicali goes, well, the tracks are selling out, so that's good. And some other stuff that I look at. Ed kind of lets it go. They kind of go on some other thing. Ed brings it up again. So you mentioned that there was this other stuff you're looking at. What is that other stuff? Domenicali still doesn't really answer that question. He's like, I look at other stuff. He just says, but it's not social media. I don't have social media. So that's not where I'm getting my information from. But he still doesn't really define where he's getting his information from. So then a third time Ed brings it up. I was like, way to go, Ed. Just in conversation, as if that was his next question was, you seem to be avoiding this question, so I'm going to keep asking you this question, which he still doesn't really answer, but I'm sure it's market research. I'm sure they do have ways, but it was just that he was just sort of putting out there and other stuff, but I'm not going to tell you. But it's fine. Stop worrying. Everybody is so upset about this. Nobody should be upset about this. The fans don't care. No, because if you had good racing, and I agree with Otmar, if you have good racing, then nobody cares about how many joules you're running or saving or what the tires look like. But when it's not good, then everybody's like, why is this not good? And then that's when they start asking these questions.
Yeah, I agree.
So make your sport better.
Speaking of Ed, Ed, he's lost a lot of weight. Oh. And I saw a video.
I was going to say, I only ever see him like this, right?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Mean, he looks, and I could be wrong. He just looked like he lost a lot of weight. I hadn't seen him in a while. And so, first of all, Ed, congratulations on that. Those are always big steps. And be safe, be careful in that process, because that's, that's life-changing, Ed. And wish you all the best in that process. And hope you're feeling healthy and, managing that weight loss and those sort of things. So excited for you, happy for you, buddy, and keep at it and be safe. So, keep being you. All right, you ready for No Shit headlines?
I'm ready.
All right, first one is up.
I thought you were going to be like, my first one is Ed Straw wrote this story. Like, great! I was just talking about how I was really admired his journalism, his racecraft, and then you were going to dog him. But okay, no,
dog Ed. No, this first one has sound effects. It's oops. Max Verstappen's dad, Jos, in horror rally car crash as vehicle smashes into a tree and ends up on the roof during the race. I did see the video.
Everybody's okay.
I gotta be honest with you. Jos wrapped that sucker around a tree. That car was upside down parts, and that was a bad crash. Yeah. And so I'm glad he's okay. That was scary.
Can you imagine being his co-driver? I can't imagine being Jos Verstappen's co-driver.
No, if he got unhappy, he'd pull over to the gas station and just leave you there.
Leave you there, right? Like, he'd just chuck your notes out the window, right? Like,
he would. He totally would.
That's your life's work that he just tossed out the window, right?
And here's your stupid notebook. See you. He's off.
I don't need any paste notes, whatever you think your job is. I don't know. I can't.
Who do you think you are, Jean Todt? You're not.
Maybe that's who they should hire to be GP's replacement at Red Bull.
Jean Todt?
No, that would be great too.
That would be
No,
good.
that's not what I meant. I meant Jos Verstappen's co-driver should
there
become
you
the
go.
new GP. But I like Jean Todt as the new
Jean
GP. It's
Todt.
even better.
I think it would be
That's
better.
great.
Yeah, get Jean Todt over there. That would be
We
good.
found you a job, man. You didn't want it, but we found it for
But
you.
we found it. Also,
Solved
the
a lot
other
of
no
problems.
shit headline is Lewis Hamilton launches new business venture as 7-time F1 world champ follows his childhood passion, now worth millions. Do you
gonna
have
become-
any idea what that business venture is based
Okay.
on his childhood passions? Have you already read the story so you know?
I haven't. So my first answer is a funny answer. I haven't read the story. So I want my first answer to be, just so you all go look up this video, is an onion salesman. So Lewis Hamilton notoriously is afraid of onions, hates onions. So somebody put an onion in his car, he freaks out. It's the best video. So if you just type in Lewis Hamilton onion, it's the first thing that comes up. You don't even have to search very hard. But so I'm going to say onion salesman just to prop up that video some more because that video is great and everybody should see it. Regardless of how you feel about Lewis Hamilton, it's hilarious. He does not like onions. That is very clear.
Okay.
Second, I'm going to say my more realistic answer is going to be like RC car salesman, since that's really how I got to start, was in
Car salesman.
RC cars.
I kind of like the RC car salesman. That's a good.
You know.
That's a good one. I
And you
like
could
that
go with
idea.
Oscar Piastri, right? And Kimi Antonelli. A lot of them, are big RC car racers. So
That's
be good.
true. All right. Well, nope.
Oh,
Trading cards.
trading cards like Pokemon. Like who still does trading cards?
Who knew? I thought for a minute it was going to be a Ferris wheel, like Jorge.
Oh,
Lorenzo,
that would be great. I would
Which
love
would
that
have been
too.
great.
That would have been great.
But it's
Lewis
not.
Ham-
It's a Ferris wheel.
Okay, wait.
It's not a Ferris wheel.
I think
It's
you all need
trading
a moment.
cards.
I want the idea of Lewis Hamilton
Playing
and
Magic.
and Lorenzo, right? Like, but those two being like friends together to bars. Like, could two more opposite personalities than Lorenzo and Hamilton together? That's the buddy
Right.
movie we all need. That would be
Right.
great. Yeah, like Magic. That's why I said like Pokemon, something like that. So, all right.
I think, Magic, kind of charmed. And, he could just put him in a cloak, and just, that sort
like
of thing.
he's the keyboardist for Yes. Yes, I don't.
Yeah, Rick Wakeman.
Thank you.
Yes,
I can,
Rick is awesome.
he is, but the cape is amazing. I'm
The case
impressed.
of is amazing. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I mean his whole setup's amazing, but
It is.
But the cape is really a sales point for me.
It sure is.
Because I will never be a grown man, but I'm a pretty old person. I love the idea that you're just rolling to work every day dressed like that, and that's fine. Everybody's
cool.
like, yeah,
Put a
wear
cape
your
on.
cape, man.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure I'd get thrown out of work maybe if I wore a cape every day.
I
But
remember I went
here
and
for that.
saw him when they were in town, and I've actually, okay.
let's do it.
I'm not name dropping. This is funny stories.
Let's do it.
So I spent time with Rick Wakeman.
Really?
Yes.
How have I never known this? I never knew this. Okay.
I did. I spent time with him and Chris Squire, the bassist for Yes.
Yep.
And there was a studio. I owned a company, and 2 doors down was a studio, a radio studio. And one of the guys over there, we'd seen each other outside and talked, and we shared common love for different kinds of music. And he knew I liked Yes, and so he came over one day. He said, "Hey, the guys from Yes are going to be at the studio doing a bunch of remote radio promotions." For their album and everything, if you want to come over and hang out.
Heck yeah, I'm coming right now.
said,
When are they coming?
"Yeah,
What are you
I'm
talking
there.
about?
I'm there, dude." So I went over there, and there's Rick Wakeman and Chris Squire, and we hung out,
Holy
chatted
cow.
for like 3 hours. We just sat over there. They had a little like fruit tray and stuff. And Chris is a super nice guy and all that stuff. Rick Wakeman, hilarious. The guy is hysterical. And we
it.
had the best time laughing our butts off.
Can't believe it.
It was magic. It was awesome. So anyway.
Was he wearing a cape?
No, he did not have
Oh,
the cake.
come
But
on.
that night, because I told him I'm going to see you guys tonight, and he goes, "Oh, awesome! All right, that's great."
That is great.
So we went down there, and he comes out. He's got the cape on. His cape on. He's just wearing like some shirt and sweatpants underneath it. It was great. It was so good.
That's good. He was in
And I
his
could
work
swear
from
he
home
had
wardrobe.
slippers on.
Yeah, right? Like you
It
just
was
throw on
so
a cape, he
good.
was ready.
Yeah,
Oh my
it was so
God.
good.
That's great. I can't believe I've never known that story. That's
Yeah, it
pretty
was so
awesome.
good. Yeah.
I'm here for that.
And I did hang out with Trevor Rabin and John Anderson and those guys on the Anderson Bruford Wakeman tour. But anyway,
there you go. John Anderson is the only person's name I can ever remember, so I'm glad. That's good. Usually I rely on Flip for this information. I'm like, the guy with the capes. He knows their names.
Yeah. So that does it for this podcast. But hey, if you like this podcast, go share it with a friend. Hit share, for crying out loud. Get the message out there. I feel like we're just keeping it all to ourselves. And don't be greedy. Don't be greedy with the Park from A podcast. Right. Share it. All right. And hit all the buttons for me. The likes, the bells,
all of them.
Share, hit all of them. All right? Just hit all of them. Here's the good news. We have awesome Patreon supporters, and it's a good thing, because if we didn't have our Patreon supporters, we wouldn't do this podcast. We would have stopped a long time ago, and we are this close to our 1,000th episode.
We better be setting up some parties. I don't know what's going on.
I know. We got to figure something out.
Paul better be available. So
I know.
We better get on his calendar now for whatever show it's going to be.
1,000th episode. It's been 19 years.
Holy cow. Oof.
Yes. Well over 10 million downloads. I mean,
children.
It's been a long road, folks.
I was like Kimmy Antonelli's age when we started this.
Yes. Yeah, you and I were Utes. So if you like this podcast and you would like to support us, you can. If you're a Patreon supporter, the good news is that I post the video and the podcast on our Patreon page with no advertisements, so you don't have to hear any of the ads. So anyway, huge thank you. And then next week, now I got a little show note. This just in. I was made aware by one Paul Charsley that he can't do the Miami Grand Prix.
I have other things to do.
Yeah, who knows?
He's probably hanging out at Miami with Zach Brown, right? Like, I can't do your show. I'll be in Miami.
He's probably down there hanging out.
In the marina.
I know.
With Zach.
Yeah.
Hanging out.
So, and Zach, he'll call Zach and Zaga.
That's not my kind of place.
It's not my kind of place, Zach. No. So anyway, Paul can't do it. So Grace has graciously agreed to do the Miami Grand Prix review.
Another week, because, 7 weeks wasn't enough. Why not more?
One more. And another programming note, because I'm going out of town on Monday. We're going to try to record it on Sunday night for you.
Sometime
Sunday night, and then
since the race is in our time zone, which is great. I love that.
Yeah, it's going to be later, for me. Yeah. So anyway, because I have to watch the race and all that, and do all the notes, and
exactly.
So anyway, but we will be back next week to do it all over again. Until that time, this is Todd, aka Negative Gamer, saying so long, Grace.
And I'll see you next week.
That's it, man. Game over, man. It's game over. I don't feel I've got to prove at all. I don't really want to prove anything. I started as an amateur with no idea or no intention of becoming world champion. I was curious to find out what it was like to drive a car fast, to drive on a certain circuit, to drive a certain